Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Living Astrology with Janet Hickox. It's time to grab your cup of coffee or your tea or whatever you're drinking this morning. Sit back and relax while we chat about some new information this morning, as well as our usual astrology information and human design information. So I hope you're all doing well. Looking forward to the weekend. Uh, it is an interesting weekend for us as my youngest granddaughter turns 1 and we're celebrating her birthday. And I just can't believe it's been a year since she came into the world. It is just amazing how fast time goes sometimes. Uh, so, thank you to all of you who joined me yesterday for the 13th sign webinar. It was a lot of information, and I realize that. And I also know that the idea of including a 13th sign into the zodiac can, turn the world upside down essentially, turn astrology upside down. And I'm not advocating that we go all out and do that at this moment in time, but I do think there's some real beauty in beginning this process of understanding the mechanics of what is going on in the sky and how, as above, so below, how that impacts us as individuals. So we begin this process then of taking a look at what would it look like? What would it be like? How would it affect you and your sun sign that you know of right now? How would it create maybe a more inclusive world? How could it elevate our consciousness on this planet? Lots of different things that we could consider here, um, just by even just by even thinking about adding a new sign. Now, because I think this is such wonderful information, and it is a lot of information, even though the live broadcast was yesterday, I am still going to leave it available for purchase for people who were not there yesterday or couldn't attend or for whatever reason didn't know about it in time. So you will still be able to have access to that. And all of my peeps that did show up yesterday, I will be getting that video produced down and sending you the recording and the slides and the information that we all talked about yesterday. So still there if you all want to. So good morning to everybody who's popping in here. I saw Terry first. Of course, he's in the other room. So he has to be the first one here in the morning. So good morning, Terry. And then Diana S., good morning to you. And I see also Jason's Automotive. I don't know who you are, Jason, but welcome. And Natasha, good to have you with us this morning. Teddy, morning. Looking to see GN for first time too. I don't know what GN means. Good morning, Nargis, and happy day to Jason as well. And anybody else who's back there listening that I don't see or who isn't in the chat, welcome to the show. So I decided, I'm such a Gemini sometimes. I decided along the way this morning, as I was beginning to really look at this idea of the tropical and the sidereal systems of astrology or sidereal, and how easy is that going to be for me to tell you about? And I got a little freaked out about it. And so I don't know how much of that topic I'm going to take up today. So I prepared some other information for us as well. And the reason, so you don't think that there's something wrong with this, it's just very difficult, when you've been sort of caught into using one system, it's hard to think about moving to a different system. And I'm not even sure I totally understand that system and the impact of a sidereal a system that on us. But I want to show you some interesting things that happen because even in sidereal astrology, there is two at least different types that chart the wheel differently. So at risk of confusing everybody, I'm going to try to make that as simple as possible. But before we get to that point, let's talk about some astrology as it is now, the tropical astrology. So we start the week and with the sun, excuse me, with the moon. First of all, the sun now supposedly in Sagittarius. Yesterday, moving into 0 degrees of Sagittarius. And that is the tropical zodiac. So, for those of you who are Sagittarian, today's the first full day, and that will move on until the winter solstice on December 21st, when the sun will move into Capricorn. And yet, this is the time, right? This is the time of the year where this 13th sign squeezes in between Scorpio and Sagittarius. Actually, we're still in Scorpio technically if we're talking about adding Ophiuchus in, because he doesn't actually come about until November 29th. And I'm going to share some more of that as the morning goes on. First, let's look at the moon in Virgo. The transiting moon in Virgo for the weekend. In fact, I think actually, let's take a look at 3:01 p.m. my time, so West Coast time this afternoon. The sun or the moon will move into the sign of Virgo. That'll be what, 6 p.m. for those of you on the East Coast. And that means that in this very moment, we are sitting in the void. So the moon is in the void. No wonder I couldn't get myself organized around really sharing this in an organized way. So the moon is in Leo at this moment and in void, of course, which means, of course, that there's no new connections that the moon is making. So for the bulk of the day, it's kind of like wandering energy. We're not necessarily going full tilt forward. We're not going backwards. We're not doing anything really. We're just kind of hanging out in the energy for the the whole of this day, at least. Maybe a couple of hours of the day if you're on the West Coast. So let's talk about the moon in Virgo as the placement that the moon will take as we get to this evening, and then all day Saturday and all day Sunday. Now, there are general themes that will come up for us when the moon is in Virgo, and really it is a sign that is an analytical, logical air sign or earth sign and ruled by an air planet, Mercury. And so we have this potential for paying attention to the details. And that emphasis then is on organizing and analyzing and perfecting and nitpicking. And it is a great time this weekend then for tasks that require any kind of precision on your part, planning, decluttering, following a recipe to the, perfect degree, whatever it is, it's a great weekend for those types of things. But Virgo is also connected to health and healing and well-being, and so Virgo's moon will also bring attention perhaps to the physical and mental well-being of your body, right? Of of us as individuals. So we may feel inspired to refine our diets or to start a new health regimen or address any kind of lingering health concerns that you have. It is a time to really focus on, if you will, the potential toxins in your environment and how can you begin the process of removing them. And that includes your body as well as your outer world. And that can mean anything you're ingesting in terms of drinking or eating. What are you breathing in? But also, what is the environment like that you are in? Is it an environment that supports you in a healthy way? Or is the environment really causing you to debilitate your health in some way? So, address those kinds of things this weekend. Virgo is also a sign of service. And then there's also the element of productivity here because Virgo is a sign of work, service, and health. Right in the zodiac, she is placed in an area of the chart that really gets down to the business of living. And there is a natural inclination in this sign toward helping others and being of service, right? So, what is it that you can do? Maybe our productivity levels soar this weekend, and there's another reason why that might happen, and that has to do with where the human design, sun and earth are. We'll be talking about that shortly, too. So there is the possibility that using productivity tools in a very positive way can help you get a lot done over the weekend. And I'm guaranteeing that we have a lot to do as next week here in the US is Turkey Day, Thanksgiving, and there are going to be lots of people putting together recipes and buying foods and getting things ready for that holiday. It is a sign of critical thinking, It is an analytical sign. Mercury's placement here takes on that very compare and contrast, analyze, perfect kind of mindset. And that means there's a sharper focus that we each have on solving problems or maybe addressing inefficiencies or deficiencies, such as the case may be. But we need to be careful here because we can end up overthinking. We can end up so much in our minds that we can start the process of anxiety and feeling like we are, like lost, scattered. And that may be even a little bit more exaggerated because Jupiter is in the sign of Gemini, another Mercury ruled sign that tends to scatter, right? The energies, the thought processes. Now, the emotional landscape is more grounded when it is in the sign, when the moon is in the sign of Virgo. But there can still be this leaning toward anxiety through the processes of perfectionism, right? Perfectionism, making sure all the details are there, forgetting to breathe, right? And also forgetting to take the look at the higher picture, right? The bigger picture of things. But people, you may feel like you need to find comfort through routine and through habits and, doing things in a way that will give you tangible results because that can lead to emotional well-being. And that means it's a great weekend. Organize your home, to organize your workspace, organize your cupboards, your closets, get rid of things that don't fit, engage in acts of service that help other people, right? How can you serve in some way, shape, or form? Revisit all of your health related matters or self care routines. And don't forget self care. I'm going to underline self care, self care. Planning, analyzing data, all of this, strategies, projects, good weekend for that kind of thing. But watch out for a couple things. One, um, being overcritical of yourself, but also of others, right? That analytical nature of Virgo can sometimes come across as judgmental and often feels like, someone's cutting you down to size or cutting into your true self. Analysis paralysis, right? Another big problem here. Overthinking can totally hinder decision making and or making progress on projects or on anything that you want to do. And then perfectionism, right? The feeling that everything has to be just right, which can lead to frustration because is it ever just right? Right? Can we get into this position of overly perfecting and feeling like nothing is ever perfect, which can totally lead us to taking no action on things. So we want to be watchful for that. Now, all of you have Virgo somewhere in your chart. So I'm going to pull a tropical chart here and I'm going to highlight where Virgo is so that you can see that. And remember, right now the moon is still in Leo. And Leo's focus was really about playfulness, self expression, um, being heart centered, that type of thing. Here's our symbol for Virgo. It's an M with the arm coming across. And the moon, as you see, is at about 25, 26 degrees of Leo, the sign just before. So find that symbol in your astrology chart, and you'll know if this were a person, and this is actually the chart of the day. If this were a person, they would have Virgo in the 10th house, which is a house of career and profession and my worldly face. A reputation and all of that gets caught up in that 10th house. So there could be the perfecting of a career focus or a professional focus, which would include professional projects or things like that that you're doing for a career, right? For your career. So that helps you hopefully see what the symbol Virgo looks like and to help you find it in your own chart. All right, so let's go on to looking at human design. And I meant to bring this a chart up this morning and I didn't do it. So I'm going to quick do it and then share my screen and bodygraphchart.com so that you can see where in the actual chart of the human design that this is happening. And what we're talking about here is this week, the sun is at the gate 34, and we have the earth at the gate 20. And that actually completes a channel in your human design. And let's see, here we go. I'm going to share it. There we go. So the 34 is on the sacral center. So it is called the gate of power. And the gate of power on the sacral gives a lot of energy and vitality and life force energy that needs to be put to good use, right? Good use. And it meets up with the gate 20, where the earth is, and the gate 20 is called the gate of patience. Wow. So we have all this energy that we want to do something with, but we also need to remember that to be grounded in patience so that we take the right steps at the right time with the right people and the right opportunity. So it's very interesting as this channel, the 3420, is the archetypal energy of the manifesting generator. So every one of you, every one of us right now has this channel defined. And that means a lot of us are feeling the effects of this mighty energy, of this energy of doing. So let's break this down a little bit and help you understand how this impacts you. Now, some of you in your natal human design chart are going to have the sacral open, meaning this center would have no color in it, it would be white. And then some of you are going to have this center defined, which means it's colored in. And depending on what chart program you use, if you're using mine, it's going to be colored in purpley. If you're using somebody else's, it may be colored in red. And the throat center, where the gate 20 is, might also be white, meaning it's undefined or open, or it could be colored in. And if so, it would be colored in brown, a brown color. But if you're using my program, it would be colored in this purple color. So let's break this down and see how it is that we can use this energy best. And I'm actually going to talk about it in terms of whether your sacral is open or your sacral is defined. So first, though, let's look at the key themes. So this gate, of course, is located, the 34 is located on the sacral center, and it is an integral energy here. This is such a powerful place, so powerful that it's called the gate of power. And it is where we have this raw yet sustainable energy. And the gate 34 holds this immense energy that is most effectively used in response to something that is showing up in the outer world. Manifesting generators and generators, you should know this well, right? Because your whole strategy is to respond to opportunities that show up in your outer world, not through your thinking, not through your meditation, not through ideas or inspiration, but those things are sort of signposts telling you to start being on the lookout for what might be showing up in the outer world for you. So this particular gate is one that is best used in response to opportunities that show up in the outer world. And then it's about applying strength and effort where it can create the most impact, but also in the timing of use of that energy. And we'll get a little bit further into that. So, this gate also highlights individual empowerment, and this individual empowerment can be inspiring to other people. It embodies this idea of quiet leadership and the ability to act with strength and purpose. So, 34 is all about that empowerment process. It is also action oriented power. It's not about domination necessarily, but the power to act effectively and decisively in the right moment. And again, we're back to timing here, right? We're back to timing. Now, the effects of this gate for people who have the center defined. So if you have the sacral colored in, right? No matter what color it is, if it's colored in, except for white, if it's colored in, you have the center defined. And now you have an amplification of your sacral energy. So you might feel an increase in your natural vitality and responsiveness during this transit. And this transit lasts until we get to the 27th, so next Wednesday. So we have, nearly a full week of this energy. And it's almost like your energy gets supercharged. So it's really important, if you have this center already defined, that you're not just taking action and splashing it out there all over the world, that you're remembering that the strategy for you to take action is based on what is showing up in the outside world, not from in here, an idea that says, "Oh, hey, let's go do that." Uh-uh. It's in response to, "Oh, hey, let's go do that." And the opportunity shows up in the outer world for you to do that, and you take that next step. So, if you're not responding correctly, you end up overcommitting yourself perhaps, and then this power can turn to overwhelm and can lead to burnout. So be very careful. This transit for you would offer an opportunity to refine how you use your energy. Are you saying yes to the things that are right for you, things that light you up? Or are you just saying yes to everything, right? Because you don't know. You're waffling, so you just say yes. Make sure that you are saying yes to those things that are correct for you. And remember, especially because if you have this defined, you're a manifesting generator or a generator, right? And one of the key things about those two types is passion. That whatever it is that you pursue has to light you up. You have to be excited about it. Otherwise, your energy drains rather than gets charged. Now, people with this center defined may also notice that you attract attention through your actions. So your energy becomes magnetic, maybe more amplified magnetics here. It's important to use this energy wisely and stay aligned with your strategy and your authority. You remember, authority is that little extra tool on your tool belt that helps you stay in alignment with your decision making, right? Authority can be emotional, which means it's with clarity over time. It can be intuition, where it is the still small voice that says, act on this. Or it can be sacral, which is the body's wisdom that says yes, uh-huh, or uh-uh, in the moment as a response to the opportunity in the outer world. Now, what if you're a projector, a reflector, or a manifester? If so, you are someone who by birth has an open sacral. And this center down here would be open, meaning it would be white. There would be no definition in it. You might have some gates that hang off of it, but by far and away, you are someone who has to monitor more closely your energy. You have to use it more wisely because you don't have easy access to sustainable life force energy. And when we have a transit such as this, where the sun comes to place himself there at this gate and the earth at the gate 20, suddenly you have access to this very generator, manifesting generator energy. So you have to understand this is going to amplify your busyness potentially, right? It amplifies the power in the environment that you are within. And you may feel this temporary surge of energy like, wow, I can do anything, I can do everything. And it can feel empowering, but it can also become overwhelming if you try to keep up with the defined sacral types around you, right? So you have to be aware this is temporary. This is from November 21st until 27th, right? That's it. And then it goes away. So if you're someone that has this center open, you have this amplified energy for that period of time. And that means that you might be more susceptible to pushing yourself. Mm, a risk of overdoing it, right? Let's do more. Let's keep going. And this can lead to exhaustion or add to, your already exhausted self. And maybe even add to feelings of inadequacy if you start to compare yourself energetically to those around you. That could be a really negative and almost, just depressing feeling for you. So, the key lesson for people with an open sacral during this period of time is to know when enough is enough. You have to know how to honor your own energy and use the energy of this particular transit wisely, discerning the fact that your normal energy is being amplified, right? That this is a temporary amplification of your energy. All right. Hope that makes sense for everybody. Let me check and see if anybody's having questions about this. Good morning. Natasha says, good self care for me tonight is going dancing, then being the rest of the days. That's awesome. Good morning, Colleen. Tom W. How do Astro design family? Oh, that's so funny. Debbie, good morning. Any geocentrics on the heart plane here? Not sure what you mean by that, Debbie. If you can, put some more notes there for me so I can understand that. Okay, let me go back to the chart presentation here. Uh, so let's look at how it impacts us in key areas of our lives. For example, in relationships. And in relationships, when the gate 34 is activated, remember everybody is activated. Everybody. And interactions might be difficult if you are caught up in power dynamics. And what we're needing to do is to balance this idea of power, right? And, things like whose energy is going to dominate here and whose will is going to get enacted. So you could be inspired, yes, and you could be inspiring, but you might also become overwhelming to others in your relationships, in your work and in your creativity. This could energize your projects, right? Get some real oomph going in a good, decisive direction, right? Taking action in a very planned, maybe and strategic sort of way. It's an excellent time for you to respond to opportunities in the workplace or to be creative. Tackle some challenges that you might have been afraid to tackle or where you felt like it wasn't quite the right time to tackle that. Manifest tangible outcomes. This is a real good time to make it real, whatever that means for you in any project. But beware of overcommitting, especially for those of you who are open in the sacral center. You might feel pressure to do it all. And because right now, literally, you feel good about being able to use energy, you could commit to things that then when that energy switches to the next sun earth placement, it'll be gone and you'll be left maybe stressed, burnt out, feeling that kind of thing. In making decisions, the gate 34 really enhances our ability to act quickly and powerfully and in alignment with an inner truth. And it's essential to pause and respond, especially if you are defined in the sacral, right? So you want to avoid acting impulsively because there's a lot of energy here, and a lot of that energy can be put to things that have no meaning or that feel good in this moment and then turn out to not be worth the time, energy, and fuss that you made to get it done. So be very wise about what it is that you enter into. Remember, if it's in your outer world and you feel lit up by it, it's likely the right thing, right? Okay. So let me give you some reflection questions just because these are kind of fun. If you are a defined sacral person, meaning you are a generator or a manifesting generator, am I using my energy in response to what excites me or am I overcommitting? And then how can I channel my power into deeply satisfying and fulfilling actions? Great reflection questions. If you are an open sacral person, meaning you are a reflector, a projector, or a manifester, am I taking on more than I can sustain? And how can I honor my natural rhythms? And then where am I amplifying other people's energies? And how can I observe it without over identifying with it? Great, great reflections, right? So the transit of the sun through the gate 34 down here on the sacral illuminates this theme of authentic power. And for those who have a defined sacral center, it's a chance to refine how you use that formidable, powerful sacral energy to ensure alignment with what your inner truth is. And if you're an open sacral individual, it offers you an opportunity to observe the energy of power without needing to overcommit or burn yourself out, right? It's when you channel this energy wisely, The energy can really be transformative. It can foster personal empowerment, but also create a path to impactful action. Now we got to look at the other half of this equation because the sun, right, is the force of it's our life-giving force. It's our core essence. And our core essence is being modified right now by the sun at the gate 34. Now, Earth at gate 20. Now, the Earth is always going to be the more grounding piece, right? And in the grounding of this, it allows us to actually achieve the highest expression of the sun. Without Earth, right, where your feet are planted, we couldn't really reach the highest potential of the sun's energies or the gates that the sun is in. So the Earth's transit is in the gate called patience, gate 20. And it's up on the throat center. So the throat center is the center for communication, for manifestation, right? Creativity gets expressed through the throat center. So gate 20 located here, this is this hub energy, right? Hub of manifesting, energy hub of communication. And it's really integral to this whole channel that is being defined this week with the sun and earth both here. Now, gate 20's energy revolves around living fully in the now, right? In this moment, patiently observing what is present before taking action. In other words, squelching the leap, right? The jumping at something, the idea of leaping into the next opportunity or this next path or thing without really being patient. Embodying, it's an invitation to embody mindfulness, aligning thoughts and words and deeds with the truth in the moment, right? So this requires consciousness on our part, real consciousness, right? Not just the mindless yeses that we can throw out there based on, our old habits, right? The moon's in Virgo. Great time to look at your habits. Do you have a habit of saying yes to things all the time? Or of leaping into or out of things without really taking some time for reflection, that type of thing. So, the theme of the Gate 20's patience is really about present moment awareness, emphasizing acting and speaking from a place of alignment with what is happening in this moment, not in the past and not in the future. It's not about rushing ahead. It isn't about dwelling on the past, but instead honoring the immediacy of life, what is happening in this moment. And then it becomes empowered expression. Gate 20 has this deep connection to self expression through action and words. So, this is a center of words and action, even though it's not sacral action, it is action that is about creating and about manifesting. And the challenge is to communicate authentically, ensuring what we say is a real representation of the truth. And then true power here lies in waiting for the right timing to act or speak. And the throat center's manifesting energy works best when guided by your strategy and your authority. If you have no clue what I'm talking about there, it's time for you to get a human design reading. Or if you've had a human design reading and you are forgetting what those words mean or what they mean to you, you can also get a refresher human design reading. Just go onto my website, living-astrology.com, and look under the human design tab, and it'll tell you the different types of readings that are available for you. So now let's look at the effects of this energy on the throat center itself for people who have a defined throat, meaning it's colored in. It will be brown in some programs, and if you've used mine, it's going to be this pinkish color. And if you have this center defined, having the sun or the earth, excuse me, now at gate 20, it is enhancing your capacity for present moment expression. And you may find this transit really amplifies your ability to speak or act with presence, and that your words and actions may carry a stronger resonance as you are aligning with the present moment's energy, right? That's the other important part. You have to align with the present moment energy. If you have a defined throat center, there could be a challenge of timing here. If you're not aligned with your strategy and your authority, you might feel pressured to speak prematurely or to act impulsively. So, this transit reminds you to pause and ensure that your expression, what you're saying, and then also what you're doing aligns with the truth in the moment. And of course, it also enhances your natural ability to draw attention to yourself. If you are in alignment, then this expression can be inspirational, can be leadership energy. And otherwise, um, if you're not aligned, then it can come across as hasty or disjointed or unclear. So be real careful with that. If you're someone who has an open throat center. So let me just remind you that an open center would be white, and it is an area where you take in the energy that is outside of you and you bring it in and you amplify that energy and can rebroadcast that energy. And that happens often on an unconscious level or a subconscious level. So the idea for the open throat is to bring more consciousness to when you speak, and when you speak is dependent on the invitation to do so, right? Where it is the right moment for you to use your voice. So for open throat people, you'll likely feel almost an amplified pressure to speak and be noticed or to express yourself, meaning that you can create a lot of discomfort by y- babbling, right? Or by interjecting when it's not the right time, or by talking over people. That shows that your communication isn't grounded in the flow, right? That you're responding instead to this heightened energy, and there's a risk of speaking out of alignment with yourself. If you need to say something, the need to say something, let's put it that way, may overshadow the importance of waiting for that right moment when the right people will hear what it is that you have to say. So it can lead you to verbal missteps, maybe, or feeling drained after trying to get someone to understand what you really mean and what you want, what the point is that you were trying to convey. So for open throated individuals here, you can use this transit to sort of witness how communication and timing function in your environment, right? Can you notice when you're speaking out of turn? When the alternate here is listening. When are you speaking but without listening, interrupting, so to speak, other people when they're speaking? You may realize how much impact your words have, how much more impact they have when you're quiet, when you wait. When you wait for someone to draw you into the conversation, or you wait for an alignment rather than the pressure of speaking. So the gate 20 in relationship means that conversations interpersonally are under, sort of present moment force. Um, Speaking from the present moment rather than dragging in the past or the future. And if you have a defined throat, you may be the one that naturally guides the conversation. And while the open throat people may feel pressure to contribute more than usual. So patience is key here. Being patient, allowing silence, allowing waiting for the right time. And it can deepen the connection that you have in your relationships, which are often based on communication, our communication skills, right? In your work, the gate 20 supports us being mindful in the tasks that we are working on. It is an excellent time to prioritize projects that require a more focused presence. And an attention to detail. Again, remember Moon in Virgo this weekend. And for the defined throat people, this transit amplifies your ability to lead with clarity. And open throat individuals may feel challenged to assert their voice, but when you get heard, when you are patient, you have the most beautiful contribution to make. But it has to be with the right people in the right time, with the right opportunity, the right idea, the right inspiration, right? In decision making, Gate 20 tells us all about the importance of timing and how it is that we are to not act on impulse or speak from impulse. And that can be something for all of us to try to understand in a better way, right? Not inserting foot in mouth because you just had an idea and you blurted out, or you wanted to say something and you just interjected that and hurt somebody's feelings or walked on somebody else's conversation. That type of thing is very important with this particular transit. So here are some questions for reflection. If you are a defined throat person, am I expressing myself from alignment with my strategy and authority, or am I rushing to speak? And how can I ensure my communication reflects the truth of the present moment? And then for an open throat individual, am I speaking from a place of pressure or genuine alignment with the moment? And how can I honor silence as a powerful part of communication? Such fun stuff this week, right? So, the Earth's transit through the gate 20 reminds us of the power of patience, presence, and aligned communication. And for those with the defined throat center, remember this transit heightens your ability to communicate, creating challenges if you're over speaking or if you're feeling succumbing to the pressure to speak. And if you have the open throat, it is going to amplify your energy as well of communication. And maybe we learn some lessons in discerning when the right moment is to speak. And the key for all of us is to trust the natural flow of timing, allowing actions and words to emerge from a place of alignment in the moment, right? Rather than jumping ahead. Okay. How's everybody doing out there? Coming back over here. Um, hmm, my camera is not on. Breathe. What happened to my camera? I see. It changed. It just changed to another camera. How special. A camera I detest because it looks so dim in the background. All right. So, uh, Tom W., stop blaming yourself for your failures, learn astrology, and blame the planets. That is not what I meant by that, Tom. So now I'm wondering, did anybody actually see that presentation, that part of the video? Let me know in the chat. Because now I'm going to go on to talk a titch about different types of astrology. So this could be a real interesting topic, and I'm going to do it fairly slowly because I'm also working it through in my own mind. So if we were to add a 13th sign, it's definitely going to upset. It's going to upset the traditions, right? It's going to upset everything out there. The tradition of the 12 signs, of the idea of 12 houses, the neat little packaged way in which astrology works in the tropical zodiac. Now, the tropical zodiac, which is the typical, when you request a chart to be done, most often and typically, unless you choose to do sidereal, you get a tropical chart, right? So the tropical chart is based on the idea of seasons. And the seasons begin at 0 Aries in the tropical zodiac, and that happens somewhere between March 21st and March 20th to 22nd, let's say, right, every year. And that is the tropical zodiac. It is based on seasons, not based on the actual alignment of planets in constellations. Does that make sense? Let me know if you guys have questions about that. So when we look at this chart, see how neat and tidy it is, right? We have a circle divided into 30-degree increments because 12 divided by 360 degrees gives us 30 degrees per sign. It's all neat and tidy. It isn't, it does not have room for anything else to be built in there, right? It doesn't. So that's our tropical zodiac. Now in sidereal, here's where I got myself confused this morning. because there are actually two types of sidereal astrology. Like, just to complicate matters more, in one type of sidereal, there's just sidereal and true sidereal, right? So those are the two different names. In sidereal astrology, it is also based on 30 degrees in each house or each sign, right? So there's no room for Ophiuchus in this, right? This is just the 12 signs going around the zodiac. The difference is that the planets are placed in the constellation and the degree of the constellation it is in. So you'll notice in this one, the sun is at 0 degrees, 48 minutes of Sagittarius. I highlighted it here in yellow for you, right? So you could see that. If we look at the sidereal, the sun is at 5 degrees, 40 some minutes of Scorpio. So we have a different sign, i.e., it's a constellation, not a sign that the sun is actually moving through in this sidereal astrology. Okay. Now, this chart sucks. I haven't figured out yet how to make this bigger. And again, like I said, this is a beginning conversation. We'll have to add some more to it. Now, I'm going to see if this is going to allow me to do what I did earlier. I tested it and it worked fine, but let's see. I'm going to share a different screen with you now. And I'm going to put this in presentation mode. Okay. So here is a picture of the sun's journey around the ecliptic, which is where the zodiac signs came from in the first place, right? It came from the fact that the sun on its yearly journey goes through each one of these constellations, which, 5,000 years ago or so, when, Babylonian times and Assyrian times where astrology's birth was, the sun was only transiting through 12 signs. Or 12 constellations. So earlier in astrology's lifetime, the signs and the constellations were aligned. They were the same. But over the course of time, through something called the precession of the equinoxes, which I really don't want to get in here. If you want to know more about that, we did talk about that in uh, the 13th sign webinar yesterday. But as we fast forward 5,000 years or so, or millennia forward, now the sun on his journey around the ecliptic plane is moving through the sign of Ophiuchus, moving through the constellation of Ophiuchus. And you can see that Ophiuchus right here, which is um, placed right between Scorpio and Sagittarius. So the time period that we're in right now, right, is in question as to whether we're in Scorpio or are we in Sagittarius. And you just saw two charts that the tropical zodiac shows us in 0 degrees of Sag. We've just moved into Sagittarian energy. And in the sidereal, it shows us in Scorpio, early in Scorpio, 5 degrees of Scorpio. But there's a different kind of sidereal astrology that is so sidereal astrology as it stands is still giving 30 degrees to each constellation. Even though, if you look at this picture, you can see very clearly that some constellations are huge, like Pisces here, right? It's huge, and the time that it is playing out is much longer than, say, Scorpio, where there's just only this little blip piece of the constellation that it goes through. And Virgo, another very large constellation that from the moment the sun hits this part, it's moving through Virgo. And from the time the sun hits this part, it's only moving through, Scorpio. And then there's this other piece. So if we look at true sidereal astrology or true sidereal ways of charting these things, it goes based on the number of degrees that span the constellation. So the sun spends an unequal amount of time in each sign. And this would correct everything to this perfect moment, right? It would be this perfect moment. And let's see how that impacts the chart. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second. Um, there we go. So I know this chart is small, and my apologies for that. And I'm going to highlight something here very quickly. Here's the sun. Oh, that just smeared. Okay. This chart is from Genetic Matrix. And unfortunately, they don't give us an opportunity to really make this bigger. I'd have to go into a program and do something to it. But I want you to notice something. This is based on a 13 constellation sidereal chart. And here's the sun over here. And the sun is in the sign of Scorpio still, right? You can hardly see that. Can I bring it in closer without mucking up everything? Here we go. The sun is in Scorpio. And over here, you can see that the degree that the sun is at is 21 degrees, 52 minutes of Scorpio, right? That little symbol there is Scorpio. So in true sidereal, if we wanted to go this route, it would accommodate, if you look at this wheel, it accommodates 13 signs, right? Oh, let me highlight where Ophiuchus is for you so you can see that he is included here. This is where Ophiuchus is. And you can see it isn't a perfect 30 degrees. It's not, right? It might look like that with the banners, but it's definitely not a perfect 30 degrees. And when we look at it this way, it changes our signs. It changes our signs, which is where some of the issue comes in for people. So I'm going to share my screen once more and show you what the dates now become. And let's go. Here we go. Here's a new chart that shows what the new dates are through true sidereal, that the sun is moving through these particular constellations, i.e. signs. So here we are down here. The typical date for the system, the tropical, this could be called tropical, for Scorpio is about October 23rd through to November 22nd today, right? In a new system, if we went to adding Ophiuchus, then Scorpio becomes November 23rd through 29th. Based on the size of that constellation, we shrink the amount of time that the sun spends in the sign of Scorpio. And that means if we are adding Ophiuchus, he comes in at November 29th through December 17th, eating into both Scorpio energy and Sagittarian energy, mostly Sagittarian energy. And then Sagittarius becomes December 17th through January 20th. And that means if you're a Sagittarian, I have a daughter that's a Sagittarian, her birthday is December 18th, she stays Sagittarius, right? Now, it also impacts all the other signs. Right? So if you are, for example, a Gemini, which is currently May 21st through June 21st, new Gemini is now June 21st to July 20th. And the impact means that for me, I'm now a Taurus. I can so see that, right? Tom, you're a Taurus, right? May 13th to June 21st is now Taurus. And it changes up the dynamic of the seasonal focus of tropical astrology. So it upends things in a massive way. So I think, the path of least resistance for most people, most astrologers, has been about let's just leave it alone. Let's just not mess with it. And unfortunately, I don't fly with that. I can't fly with that myself, right? I'm like, no, there's this energy that we're needing to learn to accommodate. But I think that we can do this in pieces, that we don't have to fly right into, that chart I just showed you, which would correct everything based on adding that 13th sign in. But what if we just started to think about, let me grab a different colored highlighter here so I can show you in a tropical sort of way. What if from, the end of Scorpio to say mid Sagittarius, we just started looking at this bridge that's being built for us, or that has been put in place for us to just begin connecting to, right? The bridge is available now where it hasn't been available. It was under construction. But now we have this bridge between Scorpio and Sagittarius. And I want to also address how in the astrology, of course, we have signs that are feminine and we have signs that are masculine, right? So Scorpio is a feminine sign, Sagittarius is masculine. So what does Ophiuchus become if he's stuck in between, right? He is a masculine character as he stands in Greek mythology, and his placement in the sky, he's always depicted as a man with the snake, right, wrapped around him, and the caduceus, or the staff he's carrying, representing healing. But what if it takes that Scorpio intensity and passion and wisdom and transformation and moves with feminine energy into the sign of Ophiuchus. And as it moves on, it begins to take that energy and move it into the masculine expression of creating a new belief system, perhaps, or a new philosophy based on the masculine energy of Sagittarius. In other words, he's blending, he's bridging, right? It's like here in Washington when we go across there's a bridge going across the Columbia River. Halfway across, we go into Oregon, right? And it's a different state, different laws, different rules, different speed limits, for God's sakes. And now it's what we're doing here with Ophiuchus. He becomes this bridge where we lean into the how are we going to physically manifest the divine feminine energy of Scorpia, into and blending it into the masculine of Sagittarian energy, and it becomes a healing path. It becomes the true place of blending and balancing the divine feminine and the divine masculine. It's a huge attempt, right? But I think it's it's so very validating that we are on a path of transformation in and evolution, and that we are seeing it right now in our own attitudes. Our hesitancy to evolve with our consciousness is in our hesitation to adopt something new like this that turns everything up on its head. Are you game, right? Are you game to play? Are you open-minded enough that if your sign changes, that you can do an exploration of that newer sign just to see, like, I wonder why it is I'm always surrounded by Taurians, right? I have so many Taurians in my family. I have lots of friends that are Taurians. So why would I surround myself with Taurians? What about Taurus would have been something that I wanted to learn about? Because if I look at this truly, I now am a Taurus, right? My birthday, June 19th, right here, right in that. What about you? Are you open to doing this, right? Um, it's up to us, right? If we want to change the world, we're the change makers. We have to be the change that we want to see in the world. And this is a bigger discussion. Trust me, it is. And I think what we'll do next in the next few broadcasts is really talk about, well, what does it mean to have Ophiuchus now in our charts? Because you do. Even if you're not born in the time of Ophiuchus, you have Ophiuchus in your chart, right? And I have, at least through genetic matrix, the opportunity to show you that, right? To bring that to you. So lots of good stuff. Lots of good stuff that we could talk about, right? In this way. In the meantime, we're getting to the end of the show here. Let's draw a card because I didn't get to do that. Uh, what do I want to draw? Ooh. Ooh. How about, ah, perfect. Let's draw a dream weaver's card, right? Because that's what I'm talking about here in these, things that we've been talking about reimagining the zodiac, meaning bringing the divine feminine into her rightful place. We've been talking about adding a 13th sign, which also is a sacred number based on the divine feminine. And how do we bring that in? And then, as well, how do we deal with this with the calendar, right? How does this affect our calendar? Lots of questions, lots of questions. And I just feel so inspired to keep talking about this. If you guys get bored with me, then tell me. But um, Richard says, true that we do have to be the change we want to see in the world, and the best time to do it is now, right? And we have the sun or the earth in the gate 20 right now in human design, which is all about the now. And the card is, if you hear a Sasquatch sigh, this is a card we haven't had before. If you hear a Sasquatch sigh, card number 7, Bigfoot, Sasquatch in the Pacific Northwest. We're very familiar with that concept. I've even heard them, if you can believe that, um, or heard something that I would have thought that has been heard from others that they say is a Sasquatch. So the essential meaning of this card is spiritual narcolepsy, seeing through the lens of separation, competition, arrogance, ego, and narrow mindedness. If you hear a Sasquatch sigh, know that they are sad because you've fallen into the trap of spiritual narcolepsy. You've forgotten your partnership with the universe and instead are working through your ego. You think you see clearly, but you're temporarily blinded to the magic in the world. Perhaps you're comparing yourself with others, or perhaps you are seeing through the lens of lack and limitation and therefore thinking there isn't enough or that you are not enough. In this moment, you're being called to wake up and remember the inherent divinity in all things and in all people. Perhaps you can't see the magic and perhaps the mystery because you've lost faith, you don't believe, or you've become hypnotized by temporary outer conditions that present as rigid or fixed. You may feel an overwhelming weight and responsibility on your shoulders to make things happen. Yes, life can be truly hard, unfair, unreliable, exhausting, irrational, and chaotic, but none of those things are permanent or personal. Remember, all things must change, and you are now and always have been a conduit for miracles. Wake up, reorient yourself, declutter your thoughts and your environment, and be grateful these episodes are fleeting. You do not need to define your sense of self by outer conditions. This is a time to dive into more self love and compassion. Cultivate a sense of humor, for you are more than enough. You matter, and life loves you so much. Look to the signs around you. The whole world is your oracle. Spirit has a plan. When you hear, or if you hear a Sasquatch sigh, change up the zodiac and add the 13th sign. All right, guys, that is it for me. Thank you so much for joining me today. I know this has been a little confusing, so please feel free to reach out to me and let me know what your questions are. And we're in this together. We're reimagining this together. This isn't me dictating this. I'm reimagining it as I go along. So facts may change, right? Positions of signs may change. The way that we do this may change. So be open-minded, and let's play with this together. That is it for me today. Have a good weekend. See you on Monday. Bye for now.